Alright, so I'm about to heat up some morning tea. So I thought it would be a good time to introduce you to the way I've been doing outside cooking for like the 2.5 years. It's about two and 3/4 years that I've been doing mobile off-grid. And it's essentially the same way that I showed you in the intro video about hobo stoves and gasifier stoves. And I was sort of simplifying that for the point of the video. But what I'm doing now really isn't that much different from that. There's just a couple little extra steps. It's all based on homemade gear, other than my pots, which are, I don't know if you can even find these anymore. They're really nice black anodized aluminum. And because they're black, they absorb heat really well. Because they're aluminum, they're a lot thinner than most like heavy steel gauge stuff that you usually find. And I think you can still find some that are kind of like gray anodized aluminum things, and I'm going to look for them and try to find a link. There's at least one set that I think comes with 4 different pieces maybe, but I'm going to keep looking for those because they're really nice, and at some point I might want to replace them. This was called the Coleman Max set, and yeah, they might actually be selling this, but all the cooking stuff, it just fits in a little pouch like this, backpacking style. And I got a couple different, there's basically 2 different units in here, a hobo stove and a gasifier stove that I generally use together. I don't usually use both of them. So I'll get it out of here. It's pretty snug. So there's usually a piece that sticks in there. Good, got it. And then what we have here, stored inside, it's just a lid of a can. Got some lighter fluid. It's not lighter fluid in this case. I had to improvise. I'll explain later. And a couple of stakes for putting on top of there, or basically a support. Got a lighter and the 2 pieces. This is the gasifier and there's the hobo stove. So, and I generally don't use the hobo stove. I was just experimenting with it for different things. But this one is mainly going to be about how I use the gasifier. And so in the intro video I showed you about like loading it with twigs and stuff, and that's generally how people use it. And that's not at all how I use it. Because I have a truck, I can carry a little bit more. So I carry a thing full of pellets. Pellets you can get for, what's the price? 40 pounds for just $4. So it's just like, it's about as close to free as you can get. And those last for 6 months to a year, maybe longer than that. It just depends how much you use them. So I just take them by the handful and just load it in there. And this system here, using the inside Progresso can, I use that system. It's so simple. It makes everything very interchangeable, very easy. I can pull out a can if there's a problem with it, experiment or whatever. Even though generally I haven't. This is the same set that I've had for the entire last 2.5 years. It's very durable. So you can change stuff out if you just want something that's a little cleaner look, but you can keep on using it. So under decent conditions, filling up to the top this way, I should be like showing you what I'm doing actually, but I can show you this way. You can see them all in there, lined up mostly to the brim, and when I get them just under the level of the holes inside, it lasts about an hour, 50 minutes to an hour, sometimes just a little bit longer if it's really hot and it doesn't have to do a whole lot of work and waste a lot just to get heated and all that. So this, just put it underneath there to protect whatever surface you're cooking on. I might mention this little box here, which is, let me turn it down a little bit, sort of just improvised just a couple days ago. I used to use, if you've been following me a while, you might be familiar with my my workbench. I was pretty proud of that little workbench, and it just was too bulky, always in the way. Always have to load it back in the truck at the end. It's taking up room inside, and might fall down and hurt some other stuff in there. So I eventually decided, I'm going to part ways with it and let it go. If I ever really need a workbench, I'll pick one up again, because it really wasn't that expensive. It was like $30 for the workbench, and then a couple, you know, just find some scrap pieces to make the top and everything else. So now I just put this together, and all this is, it's literally, it might look more complicated than it looks. Kind of has the appearance of a solar oven. I've been kind of thinking of how I might turn it into a solar oven. But really, it's just, it's a board that's on a hinge, that's hinged to the truck. These are just two flaps that come up. That's really all it is. It's supported, like it's a shelf, so it has some strings that come down here on the outside. And I'll explain this in more detail maybe in another video, or maybe on more related to the truck camper site. But yeah, it's just a shelf that comes down. It's supported by two pieces of rope, and then I flip the sides up, and then I just put some binder clips on here that just clip it into place, so it all stays really good. Eventually, it would be cool if I could turn it into a solar oven. Right now, it makes a good little base. It keeps the wind from coming in from the sides. I still need something for the front in case the wind is basically just coming in there, which, you know, sometimes there's swirling winds, and sometimes that's a huge problem. Sometimes you can fix it by turning around, but if I'm in the daytime, I always have my truck aimed towards the sun because I have the solar panels above aimed at the sun. And so anyway, back to this. We're going to do this, and then I'm going to try to change the camera so that you'll be able to actually see down into there. So, all right, so hopefully I've got a good angle, so that what I'm hoping for is that you'll be able to see the flame pattern as it comes out, because that's really the biggest difference between this stove and the hobo stove. When you just use it just straight like that, we have the secondary air that comes up, and it'll give yourself a pretty flame pattern that's relatively smoke free, and if it's working really well in good conditions, then there will be no smoke at all. Today I'm expecting a little bit of smoke, partly because I improvised on the lighter fluid, because I was like, oh my god, I got to make a video, and then I realized I'm out of lighter fluid, which is generally what I use, because it's really easy. You just put the stuff in there, it burns up really quickly, and your goal with a gasifier is to get the inner chamber hot enough to pyrolyze the wood pellets. And what happens and basically pyrolyzing means it's going to heat it up enough to cause them to release gases. And then what happens is that the air will come in, these side channels come up, and then through these holes into the burn chamber, where the oxygen mixes with the wood gases and combusts. So people are used to thinking that you add fire to some wood and the wood just burns. Well, it's actually two different processes. Part of it is that the wood has to release its gases. It gets heated up enough to release the gases, and then when you add oxygen, then it actually combusts as part of the chemical reaction. So fire is part of the chemical reaction of oxygen mixing with hot gases. So that's what this does, and that's why it's able to burn really clean, is because it separated those processes. It makes it to basically just like wood gas. So you can say it's equivalent to like propane. So wood gas coming up and mixing with oxygen, and it catches on fire because it's hot, right? So I'm going to add this, and this was an improvised mixture. I'm going to show you different ways to light fires throughout this these tutorial videos. And this is a bottle of hand sanitizer, and hand sanitizer does actually burn, but it's usually too full of water. But what I've also done is added a little bit, actually this is mostly paint thinner I happen to have around, and it works reasonably well. So I'm just gonna stick it on there, and I made this because it's the closest approximation to lighter fluid, because I didn't want to go through the whole process of kindling and waiting for it to come up, because it's not necessary. You're in a truck, just make it easy on yourself, right? So just get enough on there, and it's going to be a little smoky, and part of the smokiness is going to be because of the turpentine, and part of it is going to be because there's just a little bit of water mixed in here. The problem with hand sanitizer, it has typically a lot of water in it. This is 62%, so that means that there's still another 38% just water. But this should light up right away. if I can get this lighter to work. So it's comparable to lighter fluid in how quickly it lights up. And depending on the weather conditions, sometimes this actually just, you can immediately start seeing the side air coming up. So we'll see how long it happens here. And that's a good signal that the internals are pyrolyzing really well if you start seeing stuff shooting out the sides. And I'm gonna add a little over to the sides to get the sides of the can warm. Gotta be real careful not to accidentally catch yourself on fire this way. Okay, now if I put the top in there, you're not going to be able to see anything, but I'll continue to show you the process of setting it up. Let's see how it is in the video. All right, you'll at least be able to see enough of, let's see if I'll raise it a little bit. Then all we do at this point is just put this on, and then I put the water on top. Because basically right now, as long as you got enough lighter fluid in there, which doesn't need to be that much, but you just try to get it all around there. I don't think it even uses an ounce. And yeah, it's basically ready to go. It's very similar to propane in that sense. Once you get enough on there, you set it all on fire, and you can immediately start cooking. The fire will start coming up, and because you have all this stuff on there, it is heating up the insides. Now, if I were to pick this up and point you down there, why is it locked on there? Let's see. Hopefully you're able to see down inside there. You can see it kind of swirling as if it's coming off the sides. And if I take this off, hopefully you can see the same thing. There you go. You can see it kind of, not as well, but you can see it kind of coming off the sides in kind of a star-shaped pattern. The wind is kind of blowing it around. So that's the difference. You see that there's hardly any smoke, if any. I don't actually see any smoke at all. Now if I put this back on there. So what this does also, there's a couple things happen. So you can see how there's a smaller hole in the middle, and that's what's called a concentrator ring. And it uses Bernoulli principles to, it speeds up the speed of the air inside. So what we really want to happen is that the air comes in here and goes up the side chambers and really fast combusts the fire by speeding up the speed of the air. So the reason why this is so high, a lot of people are using like the short ones that they, so I can keep throwing twigs in there and stuff like that. But this, what this does, because it's higher, it's basically a chimney effect. So it's encouraging, because of the height of this, for it really draw the air in there and pull it up really quickly. And the concentrator ring even speeds up the air even more right above the burn chamber. So now you can see that pretty burn pattern. You can even see a little bit swirling, just a little bit. And that's because I kind of aimed the holes. I kind of gave them a little twist to encourage them to twist a little bit. So there we go. That was pretty easy. Without all the explanation, it really is just as much as you get the stove out, stick the pellets in there, and lighter fluid, set it on fire, and you're ready to cook. Just put this up there, put this on top, and you're good to go. So that's all there is to it. This is how I've been cooking now for 2.5 years. The only thing different in this case is just that I got this little stand on my truck, which I'm going to hope to improve in some ways. This is like a prototype of, just not a prototype of anything unless it turns into a solar thing. But right now it's just there, and it's something to cook on since I don't have my regular table. And it's got better protection on the side. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and heck, I've been inspired the last couple days making these videos, so maybe even by the time we go one of the last videos, I'll have a completely different setup. So that's this. And really the other reason why I wanted to show you this is that as we go through the videos, we're gonna set up with you so that you can have a set that's basically like this, and you'll be free to modify it however you like. But with basically the only thing that you need to pay for is this paint can, which is going to run you about $3.50 to $4. And these, I'm going to assume that you eat things in cans sometimes, so the cans will be free. So there'd be this, there'd be a Progresso can if you eat soup, and this would be a number of different things that come in the 28-ounce cans. So basically free, and you'll be able to mix and match and try out different things. And we're going to use one other can and to make some improvements that I only just thought of yesterday. So to add some extra, just different flexible options and give us an ability to experiment a little bit with opening and closing holes and stuff. So it'll be like a really cool experimenter's kit in a way. So I don't know why I'm doing this without putting my water on there, wasting a lot of my almost free pellets. Yeah, the only downside of the pellets is that you got to carry around a lot, but then it's kind of the same thing as if you were carrying around like a 20-pound container of propane, right? So it's bulky, you got to figure out something to do with it. People put it on the outside of their truck or something. Now you can't really do that with the pellets, so you've got to put them in a storage container. They usually kind of take up room on the bottom of my back seat. So it is what it is. Fuel has a cost. Head cost takes up space. In this case, it takes up a certain amount of space, but it's really good fuel, and it's really cheap too compared to propane. I don't know how it actually compares to propane, but it's pretty darn cheap. I'm pretty sure it's quite a bit cheaper, and definitely cheaper than the little cans that I use inside usually. All right, so as we go on, we'll start collecting some cans and making yourself a kit that's a lot like this. And so you'll be able to do the same thing, cook for nearly free. In fact, you could cook for free if you wanted to do just quick meals with some twigs and stuff like that. So there we go.